What's going on, everybody? It's Dan Moonshine, the Hillbilly Hellraiser. Welcome back to another Moonshine Talking. Hope everyone's been having a good one. I'm doing all right. I can't really complain. I guess I start off here. I don't know how many of you watched my weight training video that I did, but I was talking about being on a diet and kind of tweaking my meals and my meal plan and when I eat and what I eat, all that sort of happy horse stuff. And the goal was to try to get down to 185, just to see if I could do it. I haven't been 185 in I don't know how long. It's been quite some time. Usually I sit anywhere from like anywhere between like 200 to 215, depending on how heavy I get. Probably the most I weighed in my wrestling days was 220, I would say. But nonetheless, so yesterday I had a doctor's visit, and of course they have scales there, so I checked, and it was early enough in the day where I hadn't eaten anything. The most I drank was I had an 8 ounce water with some apple cider vinegar in it, and weighed myself, and I was 186 point. It was either 3 or 6. I can't quite remember, but yeah, man. So you take a couple pounds off for clothing and such, and yeah, so I'm 184. So that was kind of cool. It was nice to see that I was able to set a goal, meet it, and even slightly exceed it. So yeah, that was kind of fun. I don't know how long I'm gonna stay at 185 because I was already getting complaints from some of my female coworkers about how I look too skinny. I'm losing too much weight. I even noticed a couple of my one of the main things is now your clothing doesn't fit quite as well as it used to. And I had one of my Road Warrior shirts on, and that was looking really loose on me. So I don't know, but that shirt itself is kind of like it wasn't cut very well, so it doesn't fit as well as the last one I had. But no, I even went so far as I went to a show and I bought an XL shirt instead of a 2X, which is normally what I get, but rather than swimming in the stuff. But we'll see. I don't know how long I'll stay at 185, but I can at least probably dial back some of the strictness of my diet, and then I don't know, maybe I can eat a candy bar again or go have one of my Wawa frozen coffee drinks. But anyhow, the reason I'm here today, as you can probably see by the title, is I wanted to talk about some Death Doom bands that I like, some albums that I like, some bands that if you're not familiar with, I figured you ought to know about them. Uh, I will, in this meandering, rambling preamble, I will also say you'll probably notice that I'm going to have like different shirts and stuff like that because this is going to get cut differently because I'm trying to budget my time. I want to do this. I've been meaning to do this, but my time is sparse. I have a lot of stuff to do, so I'll probably do this here, stop it, and then go and do it in different times. But nonetheless, it'll get done, and then I'll splice it together. The reason I haven't done this earlier, I did do it earlier, and the problem was I did a video, and then I tried to clip it, and I tried to edit it together with the clip champ, and I screwed something up royally. Like I was moving one thing from here to there, and it completely destroyed the whole flow of the video, the way it was put together. And then rather than try to delete a bunch of stuff, because I don't know how to do it other than deleting it individually, if you're familiar with how to edit stuff, I just said F it and just deleted the whole thing. And I mean, I missed a couple of things as far as like points I wanted to make, little factoids and stuff like that. So I figured I could do it better. And then the second time I did it, stupid asshole that I am, I had a video playing on my television in the other room, and I was watching a Theo Vaughn podcast. So then when I was going to edit the thing, I had my headphones on, and all I could hear in the background is stupid Theo Vaughn and Congressman Thomas Massey talking about all the stuff they were talking about. And one, I didn't want to get in copyright stricken if the friggin' YouTube bots or whatever picked up on it. And then secondly, it was very distracting. And I just laughed at myself because it's like, any other time I try to play any audio in the background, like music or something like that, I can't get it to work. And then the one time I'm not trying it, it works better than I anticipated. So if you can hear music in the background, that's Church of Disgust. I picked up one of their records recently at the one of the local record shops. So I figured I would experiment with trying to play stuff in the background. So if you hear it, wonderful. If you don't, then it's just me babbling and all you're hearing is me talking. So anyhow, I guess I'll start with what I liked about Death Doom. I like the combination of, as most of you know, I'm a big death metal guy. I'm a big doom metal guy. The combination of the two of them very much appeal to me. I like the idea of taking the chord progressions and the tones and just overall style of doom metal, particularly like early Sabbath, early Pentagram, uh, just stuff like that, and combining it with the aggressiveness and the harsh vocals of death metal bands like your Florida stuff, like the Deicides, Morbid Angels, your Cannibal Corpses, Suffocations, trying to think a couple others just off the top of my head, just stuff like that. I don't have to ramble off the whole list of death metal bands that I like, but just the whole combination really appeals to me. I like how when it's well done, I really enjoy it. I will say the downside to Death Doom is sometimes that it can get very repetitive. It's a bit on the monotonous side, and sometimes that works. Other times it doesn't, and but it's like anything. It's like any other subcategory of heavy metal or any music in general. If it's good, it's good. If it's not, then it's not going to work regardless of what it is. But that is one of the drawbacks I would say is probably a lot of people would say about not just doom metal in general, but death doom specifically, because it has its moments where it can just be very repetitive, leaning maybe too heavily on one riff or two riffs, or maybe the same chord progression throughout an entire song. And if it's like an 8 or 9 minute long song, sometimes it can turn people off. Like, for example, Electric Wizard, that's a band that I know a lot of people. I think that's something that turns a lot of people off to Electric Wizard, even though I love them. Other people, I think they just think it just kind of sounds like a Sabbath clone, and they pretty much do the same stuff over and over and over and over again, and it all kind of sounds similar. But anyhow, so just a little start, a little preamble to start the video here, and I will start off with we'll start at the beginning. So for me, the first Death Doom band I ever heard back in the day was off of a At Death Store compilation that I got from Roadrunner way, way, way back in the day, back when I was a young lad, when I was probably about 14 years old, something like that, 13, 14 years old. And it had a lot of cool bands on it. It was a showcase tape cassette that I got. I've showed it here before if you've seen it. If you've seen it, you've seen it. If not, I have a copy of it. It was floating around in one of the other rooms in here. But it had Fear Factory, it had Malevolent Creation doing Piece by Piece by Slayer, it had Death doing God of Thunder by Kiss, it had, I'm trying to think of some of the other, Disincarnate was on there, one of the Stench of Paradise Burning off of Dreams of a Carrion Kind, a very cool album. But one of the ones that really stood out to me, because everything, most death metal is more, it owes a lot more to the thrashier side of things of heavy metal, where this one it went the separate direction of taking more from like the slow, more almost kind of like groove riff centric, even though not like death metal isn't riff centric, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying. Hopefully you do. But anyhow, this Sorrow, Hatred, and Disgust. This came out in 92, again on Roadrunner Records. It's a 4-piece. They're from New York, some New York death metal. Brent is the main guy behind it, I believe. I know he's got a black metal project that was recommended to me, but I really haven't heard too much of it. And when it was recommended to me, it was probably like a year and a half ago, so I don't remember much about it. But Sorrow was a very cool band. The first song I heard, again, was it was Illusion of Freedom, which is on this. And it was a very cool concept about talking about the music industry and how all the artists sound the same. uh, just the homogenous nature of the entertainment industry, and then kind of tying in, the lack of creative expression and stuff like that. And they're a very cool band, where a lot of death metal bands back in the day, they went more with like the Satanism and the horror and the gore and stuff like that. Uh, they kind of went a little more political. In some respects, people would probably refer to them as a woke band nowadays. But when you listen to some of the lyrics, particularly on Illusion of Freedom, on Separative Adjectives, you kind of there's lots of themes and topics that get explored they're really interesting to me. Like, particularly on Separative Adjectives, it delves into the concept of race and racial identity, and how much of a limiting concept that is, where it's one of these things where you really can't control that. It's not something that's within the bounds of your ability to control. You can't control where you were born or what you were born into, all that sort of thing. So to base your whole identity on just that one singular factor, it's a very limiting, and in my opinion, kind of a stupid concept. I think that's a very prescient topic for today, because you see it with so many different groups of people where they want to be considered this thing first above all else. And to me, it's just one of those things where it's like, your whiteness, your blackness, your brownness, your gayness, your whatever, that doesn't interest me as much as getting to know people, getting to know a person. Like, okay, it's like, great, you're black. What else do you have for me? Great, you're white. What else do you have for me? Great, you're gay. What else do you have for me? Are you interesting? Do you have interesting opinions on things? Are you creative? Do you like to do you have any philosophical opinions that are interesting or profound or thought provoking? Anything beyond just that. It's like, so not to get off the rails too deeply, but they're a very cool band. I would check this one out. It's 6 tracks. And yeah, very cool. Very, very riff heavy. Again, Death Doom is a very plodding, repetitive kind of style, and when it hits, it hits. But I would particularly check out those 2 tracks I mentioned, Illusion of Freedom and Separative Adjectives. And yeah, man, give Sorrow a try. They're very underrated, very, very rarely spoken about band. When I see people on metal, on YouTube and social media talking about metal bands, you don't really hear a lot of people talking about Sorrow. They put an album out in 2023, Death of Sorrow, on Extreme Music, and that was good, but it was more, I would say it's more along the lines of being serviceable and kind of drifting into, maybe it was like a little too monotonous and repetitive at times, to where if you like Sorrow, you're getting what you're paying for. But at the same time, I can see where people would be like, this isn't essential. This isn't something that I'm really going to run out and rush out to get. But I thought it was a really good album. Didn't quite make my top 20 list, but there was so much killer stuff beyond that came out that year that it didn't crack the top 20 for me. Freedom of speech, a government lie.
The public would not respond on TV. That is incorrect.
20 for me. So yeah, that's my first one. That was my introduction into Death Doom, and it only took me about 15 minutes to tell you all that. Take me a little quick break here because I'm getting ready to work out in a few here, so I got to get ready to do that. Hopefully this time the friggin' maintenance people that are supposed to open up the fitness room so I can hop on the elliptical in there have actually opened it this week. I ended up going to a gym last week. Hold on, let me get labels out. I'm telling you, C4, you want to sponsor me? I'll promote your toxic sludge. It's probably ruining my kidneys by the day. So anyhow, next up, this one's kind of a funny story. I saw Anthony from Metal Miners. He was doing a video on some stuff that he had picked up recently and listened to and wanted to share with people. And one of the bands that he was talking about was a band called Putridarium, and their latest release, which I think it's on it's either on Everlasting Spew or Gurgling Gore or one of those labels. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like Necrology or something or other. It's got a very Fulci-esque album cover and very cool stuff. I went and checked it out. Actually, I had seen it before because Revik from More Than Red, he was talking about it on his channel and he was promoting it as well. So definitely a couple of guys with very killer taste in music had recommended it. So I was out the same day I found the Church of Disgust album. I found what I thought was Putridarium, an album of theirs, and I asked Anthony about it. And he said, "Man, anything they do is good. So you're in good hands picking up anything that they do." So I went and picked this up, thinking it was Putridarium, which it is, but it is the band Eternal Rot and their album Putridarium that came out in 2020 on Gods of War. Putridarium or Eternal Rot they're a three-piece, an international three-piece. They got members that are either they reside in England and they're all from Poland, but from what I was looking up, they're all from Poland, and they have a very I'll say a very miasmic version of Death Doom. Like, and there's the lads there. Just check it out. It also came with a very cool poster. And I'm half-ass stalling for time here. Just kind of give you a look at the vinyl. I thought the vinyl was a really cool look. It's got this it's got this white and black splatter thing happening. I really love the artisticness of some of these vinyls that people put out. But yeah, even for trying to discover a band and listen to a band that other people are recommending, just finding something really cool by happenstance, I enjoy that. And sometimes I just happen to magoo my way into some cool things. But yeah, this is it's very much like I would compare it to if you're a fan of Acid Witch, if you're a fan of Exit 13, if you're familiar with them. That's kind of what a lot of the vibes I got from listening to this. Very, very much. I tried coming up with adjectives to describe graves being opened up by corpses, corpses ripping through the earth and walking again, living again, and creating mayhem. Because that's a lot of what this is. A lot of it's very much themed in the gore and zombies and death and stuff like that. One of the best songs I would say to check out first would be Endless Stream of Coffins. That's a really killer track. But it's a 4-song EP and the whole thing is killer. Actually, I think they consider this a full length. And they've got 3 full lengths, 2 splits, one of which I'm going to go on the hunt for. It's a split that they did with Coffins, because Coffins is another killer band, killer Death Doom band. If you're not familiar with them, put out Sinister Oath last year, which was a really killer album. But yeah, man, this is Death Doom from the grave. Not to take anything away from Deceased or any patent pending or anything like that. But if you like stuff that just has the stench of rotted corpses and an overtone of miasma and funeral mist, then this is the kind of thing for you. And fun factoid at the end here, I was watching I was watching a video of this at work. I was playing it at work, and sure enough, who's on there commenting? Our buddy Vincent Crowley. So Vince, again, another guy with killer taste. But yeah, man, Eternal Rock, go check these guys out. They're a very good band. I would say they're a little bit on the newer side because even though they're archived as being around since 2013, I would say probably like 2018 is when they really started getting cooking with their stuff because that's when they started actually putting out proper releases and splits and stuff like that. So yeah, man, if you like good death doom, go check out Eternal Rot, Putridarium. Good stuff. All right, so next up, we got a very cool one. This one comes courtesy of Southern Lord Records. It's got a bit of a cult following. Very interesting story as far as the details behind the making of this album. Greg Anderson and Stephen O'Malley from Sun O, Teeth of Lions, Rule the Divine, Goat Snake, a bunch of people were in this band. Guy from The Obsessed and Acid King played on a later album with this band. But the one I'm talking about right now is it's Dom Dagsnat by the band Thor's Hammer. And what was so interesting about it to begin with is that when the band was put together by Greg, uh, he was looking for a vocalist, and this exchange student named Runhild Gamelsader applied for the job, auditioned for it, and they liked her. And so they put a demo out, they put an EP out, which was this one right here. And that was pretty much it. They were together a total of 6 weeks, and they produced the demo, the EP, and then she had to go back to Norway, and that was it. And I always remember back in the day, I would see in the back of Metal Maniacs, you'd see adverts for Southern Lord, and you'd see this one, you'd see some stuff for Goat Snake and Teeth of Lions, and a bunch of other stuff. All are projects of Greg Anderson's because he's the man behind Southern Lord. So not a big surprise that he's heavily promoting stuff on his label that he's involved with. But he's got he in particular, him and Stephen O'Malley, if you're not familiar with Sun O, they're more along the lines of like noise and drone rock, which is an offshoot of Doom, but it's a little more where if you're somebody who finds the repetitive nature and the slow tempo of Doom a little grating or boring, then you're probably not going to be interested in any of the stuff that I'm talking about. But if you like it, this stuff is right up your alley. But what was uh, really, I guess, special about this, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody's going to pull some band out of their ass that I've never heard of and potentially only five other people have heard of, or they're going to make me look like a jackass and everybody's going to say, oh, I heard of them. How have you never heard of them? But I think what was so interesting about this album is that back then you did not have a lot of female vocalists doing the death metal vocals, the harsh bellowing lows with the high screams and everything. And Runeheld was phenomenal on this EP. Just from Norge to Dom Dag Snat to Troll, and I can't remember the fourth track off the top of my head. But this is just killer stuff. From the guitar tone to the tempo to her vocals. Just a fantastic album. I love the opening of Norge where they start out with some Norwegian chanting going on, and then it goes into the tribute to Tom G. Warrior with the, and then they go right into the song, and it's just slow and plodding, but it's also very melodic, and it's got riffs for days. And for someone like me who is into this sort of stuff, it keeps me locked in. I can follow along with it and be entertained and keep up with it the entire time. Not that, it's not like keeping up with something that moves at 10 miles an hour, but, that being said. So this is a very killer album. I'll just show you real quick because the album itself, the vinyl that I have, is a reissue. And originally, you would get the cover that you're seeing. That's the original cover. That's the one that I used to see back in the day, Metal Maniacs. And this one is the one, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the originals for the, I want to say the live album, but again, don't quote me on that. I I saw it and I can't remember exactly what this cover, because this is an alternate cover to the original. And then what I thought was cool about it was they did this whole like Norwegian flag splatter to it, which I thought was pretty nifty and artsy fartsy, and that's what compelled me to get that. But yeah, man, if you like death doom that's heavy and crushing with the riffs and the drums and the bass and still has a certain level of melody, and plus just the nostalgia, or dare I say novelty, of a band that was only together for a very short period of time, then go check out Thor's Hammer. They're a kick-ass death doom band. They've got a live album that they put out. It's called Under the Command of Tom G. Warrior, because he was actually the one who had suggested and requested that they do a festival that I'm presuming, was involved with. And so they did a live album, they recorded it. Very kick-ass stuff, but they don't have a very large body of work. I think with the exception of the 4 songs here, there's one other song. It's like a Asgardsdre or something like that. Asgardsdre. I don't exactly know how to pronounce that. But yeah, man, very cool stuff. Definitely go check out Thor's Hammer. It's killer stuff. This next one, I don't have a physical copy of it yet. I'll get into that in a second, but it's from a band. They just put out a new release, their debut. It's a French band, French death doom band. It's the name of the band is Sombrator. It's called To Any World Beyond the Tombs. Came out on May 30th independently. There is a label in Italy called Canti Aretisi that is putting out cassettes of the recording. I didn't go look, but when I originally did all this, because again, this is the third take of me trying to do this video, they had 5 copies of the cassette left, and once I got done doing that, they only had looking at that, they only had 4 left. So I'm just waiting on my copy, and it's coming from Italy, so I'll probably get it next year at some point. The way things with shipping and all the tariff nonsense and all that is happening. But the Jeremy Goyette is the main guy behind the entire band. He does the clean vocals on it. He does all the instrumentation. He recruited a guy, and I have to read it because I can't pronounce it to save my life. Tobias Jacopi. He did the harsh vocals. Hans Grossman did drums. The album itself is based on the works of Emily Bront or Bronte. She did Wuthering Heights, I believe was the name of it, if I remember correctly. And I've never read Wuthering Heights. Can't recall reading it. I don't think it was required learning or reading while I was in high school 1,000 years ago, but that's basically what the album is about. And if you actually look into her backstory, there's lots of death and depression and allusions to longing for lost ones and stuff like that. She had a very rough life. Had a very harsh background, living in England at the time, being of Irish descent, and not really assimilating quite as well to English culture as maybe some other of her Irish contemporaries. Her family that's just kind of how they were, and was one of 6 siblings. A couple of them died by the time she was 10 years old. So I mean that's rough on a kid. She ended up actually dying from the same cause of death as her siblings because they apparently lived next to a graveyard, and the graveyard, all the putrid remains of the corpses got into the well water, and it just diseased the well water, infected it, and it would make people very sick, and then it killed people. And she and her siblings were a few of the people that it killed. But this is it's like a cross for me between Opeth and some Swedish OSDM stuff. It's very cool. When I was doing a little research, it was compared to shoegaze, which I don't really know what that is. I had to look up a couple of bands to describe that. The main one I kept seeing was Alcest, who I know the name, but have never really listened to Alcest, so I can't really tell you too much about that. But I enjoyed a lot of this. It's 6 tracks, 35 minutes long. It's got a lot of interesting dynamics to it between the trade-offs of the harsh and the clean vocals, the way the music is structured, some of the use of acoustics is really good, and I don't know, I think it's a really killer album. I was going to do a review on it, a standalone one, but I figured I would include it in this as far as Death Doom goes. But as far as songs I would check out, the title track to Any World Beyond the Tombs is fantastic. Remembrance Never Dies is one of my favorites, and A Spell, The Winter Wind is really cool. And I'll take a pic once I get my copy of the cassette. I'll take a picture of it because I thought it was really cool the way they did the photography on it and kind of made it like a special release. I chatted with Jeremy through email, and he was telling me that as far as a physical CD release, there hasn't been a lot of interest in it. So that's why he did the limited release of the cassettes with Canti Aretisi. And so who knows? We'll see. Maybe if enough people like it and they start supporting it, checking it out, all that sort of good stuff, then maybe they'll put out another physical copy of it. Maybe they'll put it out on CD, put it more out on cassette, and potentially do vinyl if there is enough interest down the road for this band and Jeremy's work. But yeah, man, go check it out. Somber Tour, To Any World Beyond the Tombs, available. You can check it out on Bandcamp. That's where I found it. And yeah, it's killer stuff. last, but certainly not least, I did save in this case the best for last. I will try not to glaze over this band too heavily, but I can't say enough good things about this band. It's the band Consecration. This is their album Sinus, came out on 2022, came out in 2022 on Redefining Darkness. I picked it up through Bandcamp. If you're not familiar with Consecration, they are a death doom band from England. Uh, Liam, the guitar player, he does both lead and rhythm. He has a YouTube channel, Death Doom Metalhead. I know I've recently watched one of his videos. He was talking about changing his handle. Don't change your handle, bro. It's great. It's quick. It's to the point. It's elegant. It stands out as far as okay. It lets people know who you are. But that's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But they're a five piece. Actually, also correspond a little bit with Daniel, the vocalist. He did a lot of the killer artwork that you're seeing. He does all of that, which it's phenomenal stuff. Very very gruesome and dreary. Love the whole graveyard theme and the blackened soul coming out of the corpse that's rising from the grave. It's fantastic stuff. Very very gloomy and dreary, and it really sets the tone for what you can expect for the band. Yeah, it's the vocally. There's a combo of the high shrieks and just deep bowel churning lows. I love a lot of the combination of Solitude Eternus like guitar work on some of the tracks. You probably get a mix of say like a My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost, kind of almost like borderline gothic metal type of stuff. There's lots to love about this album. I mean, it's really good. I mean, I've listened to this numerous times since I purchased it. There's actually a funny story to it. I purchased this back in, I want to say February. I did the whole bundle thing that the band had going on Bandcamp. So I picked up a bunch of stuff, uh, which you can see. And they sent me a couple of free goodies along with it, which would, cheers, guys. I really appreciate it. But it took for freaking ever for this thing to get here. It was like it was supposed to get here in April. April came and went, and it never showed. I contacted the boys, and they were like, "Yeah, man, we don't know what happened. We sent it." And I never for a second, just to put this out there, I never thought for a second that they were that they were trying to hustle me, or that they were being shady or whatnot. That was never a thought. That thought never crossed my mind. It was more honestly with me. I figured that when I placed the order, it was before the U.S. government decided to do all the tariff stuff that the president enacted. And then I think once all of that went into place, it just threw everything into chaos. Despite what they'll tell you, it really did. I mean, I do a lot with my job. I do a lot of shipping and receiving, and doing and placing orders and stuff like that. And I promise you, it did make things difficult. It has. It still does. It is. It's creating. It's just created all sorts of. But that's another subject for another time. But point being is that I all but gave up hope on ever seeing this thing, and I was getting ready to issue a chargeback to my credit card and through Bandcamp and all that, and tell the boys like, look, guys, I'm sorry, but I love to support you, but at the same time, I just can't give money away. I don't have it like that. I'm not Dan Gates over here or Dan Bezos. And then I set a date. I had a date in mind, and I promise you, I guarantee you, the day that I had in mind that I was going to do all this, I went to my mailbox, went to my post office box, and sure as shit, there it was, the whole thing. I got a T-shirt. I got the T-shirt. I got a couple CDs. I got this one. I got Fragilium, which I've listened to, but I haven't really sat down and dug into, just because I have a bunch of stuff that I really need to sit down and invest more time in listening to. That being one of them. But yeah, I mean there's just so many good tracks on this. The Dweller and the Tumulus, these fleeting memories unto the earth bethralled. This is just a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal Death Doom album. If I were doing videos and I were to have done a best of for 2022, this would have been very high up on the list because this is just a fantastic album. I know currently Consecration are shopping their latest album. They got it recorded. It's done, and they're just trying to find a record label to release it. So I would say, just throwing it out there to whoever's listening out there in the internet ether, you know, Goat Throne, Hell's Headbangers, again, Redefining Darkness, any of those companies, Fomorian, any of you guys, if you, it'd be great. I think Consecration is a great band to have on your label. I think it offers up a nice variety to some of the other stuff that's out there, between a lot of the black and the death and the war metal and stuff like that. I think that this is a phenomenal group. This is a phenomenal album, and I look forward to hearing the new one because if it's anything like this, then they did a fantastic job on it. But this one is phenomenal. So top lads, top band. Definitely go check out Consecration.
Each resource ordered and whisper to echoes get is beginning to influence the I am drawing closest to the haunting whispering becomes a piercing silence of my
So yeah, man, that's my list of Death Doom bands and albums that if you haven't heard, you ought to go take a listen to. Give a listen to it, give it a chance. Love to know what anybody thinks about any of these bands and these albums. Have you heard them? Are you interested in them? Anything you might recommend to me? All would be well appreciated. And like I say all the time, I love engaging with people, especially about music that I like and love. So if you're interested, just drop a comment. If you don't, that's cool too. It is what it is. But yeah, that's that. So as always, in closing, this is Dan from Moonshine Talking saying stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal, always tuck your chin upon impact. Don't forget to breathe. Everyone have a good one. I got to go hit the shower and get out of these sweaty clothes and then go finish doing all of my domestic crap for the day so I can go enjoy the evening and enjoy the rest of my weekend. So everybody take it easy, have a good one, and I will catch you on the next video. Later.